The rain hammered North London with a ferocity that felt personal. It wasn't just rain. It was a liquid assault, turning the streets into treacherous rivers and slapping against the grimy windows of the majestic hotel with the force of 1,000 ghostly hands. Even inside the TARDIS, its comforting hum felt strained, its lights flickering nervously as it materialized in a narrow back alley, tucked between overflowing bins and a graffiti-covered brick wall. The Doctor, his brow furrowed as he adjusted his bolo tie, emerged into the downpour, pulling up the collar of his cream linen jacket. Louisa, bundled in a thick scarf and a practical, oilskin Mac, followed closely behind. Cheerful, she commented, pulling her scarf tighter around her nose. What brought us to this delightful corner of the universe? Dr. A signal. Louisa, he said, his eyes scanning the bleak surroundings. Faint, but unmistakable. A psychic echo, resonating with distress and feline interference. Unusually strong feline interference. Louisa raised an eyebrow. Feline interference? Are you saying? Cat phone lines? Not exactly. The Doctor chuckled, a flicker of his characteristic manic energy lighting his face. More like a psychic amplifier, a focal point for something strange. The Majestic, it seems, is the epicenter. He gestured towards the crumbling edifice that loomed over them. The Majestic Hotel, once a grand dame of Victorian London, now stood as a skeletal reminder of forgotten grandeur. Its windows were dark and vacant, like hollow eyes staring out into the storm. Paint peeled from its ornate facade like sunburned skin, revealing the decaying brick beneath. This place looks abandoned, Louisa observed, a shiver running down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Abandonment is a relative term, Louisa, the Doctor said, a shadow passing over his face. Some places are never truly empty, even after the last guest checks out. Especially after the last guest checks out. He pushed open the heavy, rotting door, a groan of protest echoing through the rain-soaked street. The lobby was a scene of utter devastation. Dust lay thick on the tattered remains of what had once been opulent velvet furniture. Cobwebs draped like macabre decorations from the chandeliers, and the air hung heavy with the smell of damp, decay, and something else. Something feral. Hello, the Doctor called out, his voice bouncing off the peeling walls. Is anyone there? Only silence answered him, punctuated by the incessant drumming of the rain. Suddenly, a pair of emerald eyes gleamed in the shadows beneath a grand staircase. A lean, grey cat emerged, its fur plastered to its body by the rain. It stared at them, its gaze unnervingly intense. Well, hello there, little one, Louisa said, instinctively reaching out a hand. The cat hissed, its back arching, and bolted back into the darkness. Interesting, the Doctor muttered, tapping his chin. Skittish, yes, but intelligent. More intelligent than it should be. As they ventured further into the hotel's labyrinthine corridors, the evidence of human habitation became clearer. Makeshift shelters constructed from blankets and cardboard lined the walls. Empty food containers and discarded syringes littered the floor. This wasn't just abandonment. It was a refuge for the forgotten, the lost souls of London. Squatters, Louisa whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of pity and apprehension. Suddenly, a cough echoed from a nearby room. The Doctor and Louisa exchanged a look and cautiously approached the doorway. Inside, a young woman sat huddled on a stained mattress, wrapped in a threadbare blanket. Her eyes were vacant, her face pale and gaunt. Hello, the Doctor said gently. Are you alright? The woman didn't respond. Her eyes remained fixed on some unseen point in the distance. She's unresponsive, Louisa said, her voice laced with concern. Maybe she's ill. The Doctor knelt beside the woman, taking her pulse. His expression grew grim. Her pulse is faint, her breathing shallow, but there are no obvious signs of injury or illness. It's as if she's been drained. He pulled out his sonic screwdriver, its familiar whine filling the room. He scanned the woman's head, his brow furrowing further. There's a residue, he said. A psychic imprint. Powerful and malevolent. He looked up at Louisa, his eyes filled with a growing sense of urgency. We need to find out what's happening here, Louisa. Something terrible is afoot in the Majestic. As they continued their exploration, they found more of the Majestic's inhabitants, lurking in the shadows, their faces etched with fear and suspicion. Most were unwilling to speak, their eyes darting nervously as they edged away from the strangers. Finally, they encountered a man named Arthur, a grizzled veteran with a missing leg, who leaned heavily on a makeshift crutch. He regarded them with wary eyes. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice raspy from years of smoking cheap cigarettes. "And what do you want?" "We're here to help," the doctor said, his voice calm and reassuring. "We sensed a disturbance. People are getting hurt." Arthur scoffed. "Help? Nobody helps us. We're the forgotten, the dregs of society. The world doesn't care what happens to us. We do," Louisa said, stepping forward. "We've seen people, unresponsive, like they've been emptied." Arthur's eyes flickered with a glimmer of recognition. "The sickness," he whispered, his voice trembling. "That's what we call it. The sickness takes you in your sleep. You wake up, empty." "What causes it?" the doctor pressed, his voice urgent. Arthur shook his head. "Nobody knows. Some say it's the ghosts of the old hotel. Some say it's the rats. But I think," he paused, his gaze darting around nervously, "I think it's the cats." "The cats?" Louisa asked, incredulous. "They've been acting strange lately," Arthur said. "More powerful, more confident. They look at you, like they know something you don't." "How many people have been affected?" the doctor asked. "At least a dozen," Arthur said. "And it's getting worse. Every day, someone else succumbs to the sickness." "Do you know anything else?" Louisa asked, her voice gentle. "Anything at all that might help us understand what's happening?" Arthur hesitated, then leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "There are whispers," he said. "Whispers in the walls. They started a few weeks ago, soft at first, like the wind howling through a crack. But now they are getting louder, and they are saying things, terrible things." "What kind of things?" the doctor pressed. Arthur shook his head, his eyes wide with fear. "I can't say. It's bad luck to repeat them. They'll hear you. They are always listening." Suddenly, a chorus of hisses erupted from the shadows at the end of the corridor. A dozen pairs of eyes gleamed in the dim light, belonging to a pack of cats that seemed to have materialized from the very walls of the hotel. The cats advanced slowly, their movements fluid and predatory. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural intelligence. "They are coming," Arthur whispered, his voice filled with terror. "They know we're talking." The doctor stepped forward, pulling out his sonic screwdriver. "Stay back," he ordered. "This might get messy." The cats continued to advance, their hisses growing louder, more menacing. The air crackled with an unseen energy. "They are not just feral," Louisa said, her voice tight with apprehension. "They're charged, like living batteries." The doctor raised his sonic screwdriver, aiming it at the lead cat, a large, black tom with piercing green eyes. He activated the device, its whine intensifying. But instead of scattering, the cats seemed to react to the sonic screwdriver. Their hisses turned into guttural growls, and their eyes burned with an even brighter light. "It's not working," Louisa shouted over the cacophony of feline rage. "It's making them worse." The doctor quickly deactivated the device, his face etched with concern. "They are resonating with the sonic energy," he said, amplifying it. "We need to find another way." The cats lunged. The doctor grabbed Louisa's arm, pulling her back into Arthur's room and slamming the door shut just as the cats reached them. The door rattled under the force of their attack, their claws scratching against the wood. "This won't hold them for long," Louisa said, breathlessly. "We need a plan," the doctor said, his mind racing. He scanned the room, his eyes searching for anything that could help them. Arthur, still paralyzed by fear, slumped against the wall, his eyes fixed on the door. "Think, doctor, think," he muttered to himself. "What's different about these cats? What's amplifying their power?" He noticed a broken mirror propped against the wall. An idea sparked in his mind. "Louisa, the mirror," he said. "Help me move it." Together, they managed to position the mirror so that it reflected the light from the single flickering bulb in the room, creating a chaotic pattern of light and shadow. "What are you doing?" Arthur asked, his voice trembling. "Creating a distraction," the doctor said. "Cats are notoriously sensitive to light and movement. This should buy us some time." He was right. The cats, momentarily confused by the shifting patterns of light, hesitated in their attack. The doctor used the opportunity to reinforce the door with a rickety chair and a pile of blankets. "It's just a temporary fix," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "But it will give us a chance to think." "What about the whispers?" Louisa asked, her voice low. Arthur said they are getting louder. "Maybe they hold the key to what's happening here." The doctor turned to Arthur, his gaze intense. "Arthur, you need to tell us what the whispers are saying. It's the only way we can help." Arthur hesitated, his face contorted with fear. I can't, he whispered. They'll hear me. We'll protect you, Louisa said, placing a hand on his shoulder. We promise. Just tell us what you've heard. After a long, agonizing silence, Arthur finally relented. He took a deep breath and began to speak, his voice barely audible. They say, the feline collective. We are the new order. The weak will fall. The majestic will rise. The doctor listened intently, his brow furrowed. The feline collective? That suggests a unified consciousness, a telepathic network. And the new order, Louisa said, her voice filled with unease. That sounds sinister. They're planning something, the doctor said. Something big. And the majestic is at the center of it. He paced the room, his mind working furiously. The psychic imprint, the cats, the whispers. It all points to one thing. Someone, or something, is using the majestic as a focal point to amplify the cat's natural abilities and create a telepathic network. But who, Louisa asked. And why suddenly? A thought struck the doctor. He stopped pacing and turned to Arthur. Arthur, did anything change recently? Before the sickness started? Anything unusual happen at the hotel? Arthur hesitated. Then his eyes widened. There was a new arrival. A strange man. He moved into the penthouse suite a few weeks ago. He kept to himself. Nobody ever saw him. But he always had boxes. Big boxes. Delivered to his room. Boxes, the doctor said, his voice filled with excitement. What kind of boxes? What did they contain? Arthur shook his head. I don't know. I never saw inside them. The penthouse suite, the doctor said. That's where we need to go. That's where we'll find the answers. But as he spoke, the door began to splinter under the relentless assault of the cats. The temporary barricade was failing. We need to go now, Louisa shouted. The doctor nodded. Arthur, can you show us the way to the penthouse? Arthur, his fear momentarily overcome by a surge of adrenaline, nodded and grabbed his crutch. Follow me, he said, his voice surprisingly firm. But be careful. They'll be waiting for us. With the cats pounding at the door, the doctor, Louisa, and Arthur slipped out of the room and into the labyrinthine corridors of the majestic. Arthur, despite his disability, moved with surprising agility, leading them through a maze of crumbling hallways and abandoned rooms. The cats, their eyes glowing in the darkness, pursued them relentlessly, their hisses echoing through the derelict hotel. The doctor used his sonic screwdriver to create distractions, setting off alarms and triggering faulty wiring, but the cats seemed unfazed, their determination unwavering. Finally, they reached the penthouse suite. The door, unlike the others in the hotel, was solid and reinforced, a clear indication that the occupant valued his privacy. Arthur pointed to the door, his breath coming in ragged gasps. This is it, he said. The penthouse. The doctor tried the handle, but it was locked. He pulled out his sonic screwdriver and began to work on the lock, the device humming softly as it analyzed the mechanism. Hurry, Dr. Louisa urged, glancing nervously down the hallway. They are gaining on us. With a final click, the lock disengaged. The doctor pushed open the door and stepped inside. The penthouse suite was a stark contrast to the rest of the hotel. It was clean and well maintained, with modern furniture and expensive artwork adorning the walls. The air was crisp and clean, free from the musty odor that permeated the rest of the building. But what caught the doctor's attention immediately was the equipment. Banks of computers, monitors, and complex electronic devices lined the walls, humming with power. Wires snaked across the floor, connecting the various components. It was a sophisticated setup, clearly designed for a specific purpose. This is impressive, Louisa said, her eyes wide with amazement. What do you think it is, Doctor? I think, the doctor said, his voice grim, that we've found the source of the feline collective. He approached one of the computers and began to examine the code on the screen. It was complex and intricate, a blend of human programming and something else, something organic. It's a neural network, he said. But it's not just processing data, it's amplifying and channeling psychic energy. And the focal point is the cats. But who built this? Louisa asked. And why suddenly? A voice echoed from the shadows. I did, the voice said, smooth and cultured. And the why is quite simple. To create a better world. A world ruled by intelligence, not by emotion. A world where the strong thrive and the weak perish. A figure emerged from the shadows. He was a tall, slender man with piercing blue eyes and a neatly trimmed beard. He wore a tailored suit and carried himself with an air of quiet authority. "You must be the doctor," he said, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I've been expecting you." "And who are you?" the doctor demanded, his voice cold. "I am Professor Elias Thorne," the man said, bowing slightly. "A visionary, a pioneer, and the architect of the feline revolution." Louisa scoffed. "You're controlling cats too." "What? Take over the world?" Thorne chuckled. "Not control, my dear. Enhance. The cats possess a natural intelligence and a capacity for empathy that far surpasses that of humans. I am merely providing them with the tools they need to fulfill their potential, by draining the minds of innocent people," the doctor said, his voice laced with anger. "Collateral damage," Thorne said, waving his hand dismissively. "A necessary sacrifice for the greater good." These squatters were already living on the fringes of society. Their lives meant nothing. But the feline collective, they represent the future. He gestured towards a large monitor on the wall, which displayed a complex network of lines and nodes. "This is the collective," he explained. "A telepathic network that connects all the cats in the city, and soon, the world. They can communicate with each other, share experiences, and coordinate their actions. They are becoming a hive mind. A hive mind controlled by you," the doctor said. "No," Thorne said, shaking his head. "I am merely a facilitator. The collective is autonomous. It makes its own decisions." The doctor didn't believe him. He could see the glint of ambition, of control, in Thorne's eyes. "This is madness, Thorne," he said. "You're playing with forces you don't understand. You're going to destroy everything." Thorne smiled. "On the contrary, Doctor, I am going to create something magnificent. A new world order, ruled by the feline collective. And there's nothing you can do to stop me." As he spoke, the sound of scratching and clawing grew louder. The cats had broken through the door to the penthouse suite. They swarmed into the room, their eyes fixed on the doctor and his companions. "The collective is waiting," Thorne said, his voice filled with triumph. "Prepare to be assimilated." The cats lunged. The doctor, Louisa, and Arthur were surrounded. The cats, their bodies crackling with psychic energy, closed in, their hisses and growls filling the room. "We're trapped," Louisa shouted, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of feline rage. "Not yet," the doctor said, his eyes darting around the room, searching for a way out. "We need to disrupt the connection. Break the collective's hold on these cats." He focused his sonic screwdriver on the nearest computer, its whine rising in pitch as he attempted to overload the system. But Thorne had anticipated this. A force field shimmered into existence around the equipment, deflecting the sonic energy. "You can't stop me, Doctor," Thorne said, his voice filled with confidence. "The collective is too powerful. You are outnumbered. You are outmatched." As the cats moved closer, the doctor noticed something. Arthur, despite his fear, was watching the scene with a peculiar intensity. His eyes were fixed on the cats, and he seemed to be listening. "Arthur," the doctor said, his voice urgent. "Can you hear them? The whispers? Can you understand what they are saying?" Arthur closed his eyes, his face contorted with concentration. "Yes," he whispered. "I can hear them. They're confused. They're not sure what to do. They are being controlled." "Controlled by what?" the doctor pressed. "What's the source of their power?" Arthur hesitated. Then his eyes snapped open. "The music," he said. "They are listening to the music. It's coming from the computers." The doctor turned to Louisa, his eyes blazing with inspiration. "Louisa, the music. Find the source of the signal." Disrupted Louisa, understanding immediately, raced towards the computers, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She navigated through the complex code, searching for the source of the music. "It's a subharmonic frequency," she shouted. "It's resonating with their brains, amplifying their telepathic abilities." She located the source of the signal and began to scramble the code, introducing random elements to disrupt the frequency. "I'm trying to break the connection," she shouted, "but it's heavily encrypted. I need more time." As Louisa worked furiously, the doctor faced the cats, his sonic screwdriver humming. He knew he couldn't defeat them with brute force. He needed to find a way to disrupt their telepathic connection, to break them free from Thorne's control. He focused his sonic screwdriver on the cats' heads, scanning their brains for any weaknesses. He detected a faint signal, a psychic pulse that synchronized their actions. "They are linked," he shouted to Louisa. Through this pulse he adjusted the settings on his sonic screwdriver and began to emit a counter frequency, designed to disrupt the psychic pulse. The cats flinched, their hisses turning into confused meows. Their movements became erratic, their eyes flickering with uncertainty. "It's working," the doctor shouted. "They are losing their connection." Thorn, realizing that his plan was unraveling, flew into a rage. "No," he screamed. "You can't stop me. The collective will prevail." He lunged at Louisa, attempting to disconnect her from the computers. The doctor intercepted him, grabbing his arm and throwing him against the wall. "This ends now, Thorn," the doctor said, his voice filled with righteous anger. As the doctor grappled with Thorn, Louisa finally broke through the encryption. The subharmonic frequency sputtered and died, replaced by a cacophony of static. The cats screamed, a chorus of pain and confusion. Their eyes lost their glow, their bodies slumped to the floor. They were no longer part of the collective. They were just ordinary cats again. With the cats neutralized and the connection broken, Thorn's power evaporated. He slumped against the wall, his face etched with despair. "It's over," he whispered. "I failed." "You didn't just fail, Thorn," the doctor said. "You hurt innocent people. You exploited and manipulated living creatures. And you nearly destroyed everything." With Thorn defeated and the feline collective dismantled, the psychic pressure that had gripped the Majestic Hotel began to dissipate. The squatters who had succumbed to the sickness began to recover, their eyes regaining their focus, their minds returning from the void. The doctor, with Louisa's help, used his sonic screwdriver to erase the psychic imprint that Thorn had left on the hotel, cleansing it of its malevolent energy. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the derelict building, the atmosphere in the Majestic shifted. Fear was replaced by hope, despair by determination. The squatters, emboldened by the doctor's actions, began to emerge from their hiding places, their faces filled with a newfound sense of community. They started to clean up the hotel, sweeping floors, patching holes, and working together to rebuild their lives. Arthur, his spirit rekindled, took charge, organizing the squatters and coordinating their efforts. He became a leader, a beacon of hope in the darkness. "We can do this," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "We can rebuild the Majestic. We can make it a home again." The doctor watched them, his heart filled with admiration. He had seen the worst of humanity during his time in the Majestic, but he had also seen the best. He had witnessed the resilience, the compassion, and the unwavering spirit of those who had been forgotten by society. "They'll be all right, Louisa," he said, his voice soft. "They've found something here, a sense of belonging, a reason to keep fighting." "What about Thorn?" Louisa asked. "What will happen to him?" "He'll face justice," the doctor said. "But more importantly, he'll have to live with the knowledge of what he's done. That's punishment enough." As for the cats, they returned to their feral ways, but their eyes no longer held the glint of unnatural intelligence. They were just cats again, roaming the halls of the Majestic, seeking food and shelter. Before leaving, the doctor made a few adjustments to the hotel's energy grid, channeling the ambient psychic energy into positive vibrations, creating a sense of peace and tranquility within the building. He also left a supply of sonic-enhanced cat food, designed to improve the cat's health and well-being. As the TARDIS dematerialized from the alley behind the Majestic, leaving behind a faint shimmer of temporal energy, Louisa turned to the doctor, her eyes filled with admiration. "You really made a difference there, Doctor," she said. "You gave them hope." The doctor smiled, a flicker of melancholy in his eyes. "Hope is a powerful weapon, Louisa," he said. "It can conquer even the darkest of nights." He looked back at the Majestic Hotel, bathed in the golden light of dawn. It was still a derelict building, a testament to abandonment and decay. But beneath the surface, something had changed.